Did you know that sometimes, when the sun sinks low and the moon rides high, even zoos get a little spooky? It's true. Ghostly sightings and eerie encounters have been reported at zoos all around the world. From strange noises and unexplained animal behavior, to full-blown apparitions, these haunted zoo stories will send shivers down your spine. Once upon a time, Purgatory Mountain was located near a North Carolina zoo, a popular attraction wrapped in mystery and old tales. Many years ago, in the dark and eerie night, Ranger Mike Yates endured a terrifying experience while he was on his lonely night shift at the interim zoo. It's this very place that gave birth to the North Carolina Zoo in the early 1970s. Mike saw a layer of ground fog rolling in from the windows of his security cabin, looking like a ghost gliding over the earth. The dense fog was gradually engulfing his trusty truck, which was parked next to a pond. Cranking up the truck and backing out, Mike got the shock of his life from an unexpected sight in the rearview mirror. An old, elderly woman stood right behind his truck, glowing under his backup lights. Mike was baffled, wondering where did she appear from. Without wasting a moment, he jumped out of the truck and took a closer look at the woman. She was formally dressed and had a calm aura. Then he realized it was nearly 3 a.m., a time often associated with supernatural happenings in folk stories. "I'm waiting for someone," she said in a voice barely louder than a whisper. With that, she turned and started walking towards the foggy pond. Seeing her walk towards the mist-covered pond, Mike feared she might slip and fall, so he called out to her. Offering to give her a ride to the gate, he thought maybe the person she was waiting for was there. She agreed and got in without making a fuss. Upon reaching the gate, Mike noticed an old car parked by the roadside. It was the kind of car that you'd expect to see taking a little old lady for her weekly church visits or grocery shopping in the old days. The woman silently got into the car, leaving Mike shocked by the unusual encounter. As she began driving away, he followed the car, hoping to jot down the license plate. He was trying to find some logic in this foggy confusion. He raced behind her, and just as he came around a bend, something impossible happened. The aged car was nowhere to be seen. It had disappeared. And so, if you ever find yourself near Purgatory Mountain on Halloween, beware of a quiet old lady dressed in formal wear, or her ancient car on the winding road. She's waiting to meet someone, and that someone could be you. Once upon a time, the Alaska Zoo was located in Anchorage. It was essentially a humble zoo with a small mix of donated animals and, interestingly, an elephant. Its serenity continued until the arrival of an orphaned baby polar bear named Binky. His charming personality and cute antics soon made him the most adored exhibit and a beloved local champion. Among the many admirers who visited Binky was Catherine Warburton, a keen 29-year-old tourist from Australia. On her journey in 1994, Catherine had high expectations of meeting Binky, the famous polar bear. Her excitement led her to make a rather risky move. She decided to cross not one, but 2 protective rails to get an up-close photograph of Binky. However, things didn't go as she had hoped. Before she knew it, Binky had poked his head through the bars and grabbed her, leaving her with a damaged leg and gnawed wounds. It took the zoo staff nearly 3 days to retrieve Catherine's shoe from Binky following the mishap. Now, we don't want to say she asked for it, but it does make you wonder, wouldn't you also avoid crossing safety barriers put in place for that exact reason? Unfortunately for Binky, a similar event occurred only 6 weeks after the first incident. A group of drunk teens decided it would be entertaining to take a swim in Binky's enclosure. The result was that a teenager ended up in the hospital with leg wounds after being attacked. Again, we don't want to point fingers, but seriously, how did they think that was a good idea at all? Maybe the ghost of Binky was trying to teach visitors a lesson about respecting boundaries. Have you ever heard about the spooky tale of the Cincinnati Zoo? It's said to be haunted by a ghost, but not just any ghost. This one's a lion. That's right, folks. A phantom lion roams the zoo's footpaths, often watching the visitors from the depths of the dense vegetation surrounding the walkways. People have shared their experiences, claiming that while they were strolling alone down a lonely path, they heard something that sounded eerily similar to the heavy thuds of a lion's footsteps matching their own. On several occasions, these individuals grew so petrified that they bolted, with the lion's footfall sounds seeming to keep pace with their frantic sprint. Just when they felt that the ghostly lion's attack was imminent, they would whirl around to confront their pursuer, only to find emptiness. No lion was trailing them. There are also times when witnesses have seen the luminous eyes of a lion peering at them from the underbrush of a shadowy, secluded path. These individuals would then gradually reverse their steps nervously, praying that the lion wouldn't tail them. The Cincinnati Zoo is the second ever constructed in the Western Hemisphere, coming just after the one in Philadelphia. To this day, it possesses the oldest functioning building for zoo animals in the entire Western Hemisphere, which is now the present-day house for reptiles. From the moment it was established in 1875 until now, quite a number of animals have found a home here, lived out their lives, and eventually passed on. Interestingly, it was also the final haven for the world's last passenger pigeon, Carolina parrot. Their deaths at the zoo marked the sad conclusion of their species' existence. Anyone and everyone is welcome to explore the zoo, but there's a small fee to get through the gates, and this applies whether you're there as an animal lover or a ghost hunter. The crowd is ushered out at 6 in the evening during spring and summer, or at 5 when it's fall or winter. But if the idea of wandering around the zoo after sundown gives you a thrill, then make sure to attend the annual Festival of Lights, held every November and December. Here, the closing hour is extended to 9, keeping the zoo up and running even after nightfall. On October weekends, there's also the fun-filled Hallzoo-ween, where the zoo gets dressed up for Halloween. However, this event wraps up at 5 in the evening, so you'd have to clear out before it gets dark. In case you're after the story of the ghost lion, try hanging out around the less trodden paths that snake through dense vegetation. And if you do come face to face with the lion, it's perfectly fine to feel a surge of fear. After all, you're in a zoo, and the lion can launch an attack before it vanishes into thin air. A century and a year ago, an old zoo in Griffith Park was established but was left abandoned in 1965 when a larger new zoo was built just a couple of miles to the west. But here's the interesting part. The old zoo was never officially closed down. If you follow the signs leading towards the carousel and golf course, you'll stumble upon the old zoo picnic area. Begin your journey through the park, and you'll soon spot a lush green space, complete with shaded benches and barbecue pits, and not far off the first big animal exhibits. Continue climbing up the path until you reach the end of these large enclosures, and before you proceed along the main route to the other smaller cages, take the path to the left, behind the big cages. From this vantage point, you can peer down into the old cages from the top and the back. Find a cool, shady spot to sit down and let your imagination roam wildly. Perhaps you'll hear the deep, menacing growl of a mighty feline, a toucan's tropical squawk, or even a seal's playful bark. These sounds could be residual hauntings of the animals that once lived here, leaving their mark on the old enclosures. But there are also stories of human spirits haunting the place. The most famous is that of a zookeeper named Griffith J. Griffith, who was convicted of shooting his wife in 1903. It's said that he may still roam around the old zoo grounds, perhaps searching for redemption, or just reliving his past life before tragedy struck. So if you're ever in Los Angeles and have a free afternoon, consider taking a trip to the old zoo in Griffith Park. Who knows what you might encounter while exploring its charming yet eerie remnants of the past. Just remember to treat all ghosts, animals, or humans with respect and kindness. After all, they may just be longing for a connection to the living world. So, approach with an open mind and heart, and you may have an experience that will stay with you long after leaving the old zoo behind. Did you know that as a zookeeper, there could be more to the job than just feeding and taking care of animals? Sure, I'd had late nights too, just like any other job. Sometimes it was rushing to finish an exhibit before dawn breaks, or lending a hand to an animal in distress. But let me take you back to that one unforgettable night, unlike any other. Under the near midnight sky, I was just wrapping up my day's work, jotting down each animal's health details in our monitoring program. Yet something was bothering me, an unexplainable worry. The giraffes, all 6 of them, but specifically Jaffy, the male one, something was not right. That night, my instincts had me check on them before leaving. Coming closer to their enclosure, amidst the evening silence, I heard a strange commotion. The thunderous sound of galloping hooves and a deep-throated growl could only be a call of danger in the wild. My heartbeat quickened as I hurried towards their enclosure. And there, in the dim light, I saw a sight that will forever be etched in my memory. 5 giraffes huddled together on one side, while Jaffe stood alone on the other end. That wasn't all. The large creature affixed to Jaffe's back was something straight out of a horror movie, with features resembling a man and wings like a bat. This monstrous creature was too real to be a figment of my imagination. Before I could make sense of the situation, the creature detached itself from Jaffe and lunged at me. The next thing I remember is the creature's half-human face, its eyes wide and teeth bared, and then nothing. When I came to, I found myself lying on the walkway under the first rays of dawn. I got up, feeling no pain, just a burning sensation on my skin from the sun. What happened? What was that creature? I'm yet to find answers, but that night, my life took a turn as strange as the creature itself. Once upon a time, while I was heading to an animal exhibit, my instincts told me that we should have gotten rid of a certain animal when we had the opportunity. With a rifle in one hand and a phone in another, I was weaving my way around the casual visitors. Children were present with their parents, teenagers were exploring on their own, and some adults were here to admire the captive creatures. Suddenly, my radio, attached to my waist, buzzed with a call from a security guard. Ignoring the call, I arrived at an enclosure housing a jackal. A crowd had gathered, but no one was panicking, so I guessed I still had the chance to control the situation. I called for the security guard Coulson to clear out the crowd. The enclosure mimics the jackal's natural forest home, providing many hiding spots. A man in his 20s was trying to get closer to a female jackal, Banshee, in the enclosure, but I couldn't find Banshee's partner, Raven, a male jackal. I knew jackals were territorial, and this man was in the middle of Raven's territory. Despite the barrier of metal railings and 2 fenced spaces between, this man had somehow crossed into the enclosure. I warned him to leave, but he paid no attention. I saw him trying to get close to the jackal, near a rocky area. I held my rifle ready, just in case. I sent another zookeeper to a back door of the enclosure, which led to a fully enclosed area for the jackal's medical checks. But before I could give the signal to open the door, I saw a blur of black fur. It was Raven, defending his territory. The intruder saw him too, and tried to escape, but Raven was too fast. He bit the man's leg, causing him to fall. Seeing the chance, I shot Raven. The intruder, now crying, tried to flee. Just as I thought the problem was solved, Raven, who we thought was dead, twitched. To my disbelief, he was transforming. His black fur was reducing, and his body was growing larger. His jawline became longer and his teeth sharper. Mesmerized by the unexpected transformation, the intruder started climbing the fence to escape, but it was too late. I shot the beast again, but it had no effect. The beast lunged at the intruder with sharp claws. The scene was horrifying, with blood spraying everywhere. The crowd, who were watching in terror, started panicking and running away. I regretted not making the decision to get rid of Raven when I learned about his transformation after consuming human flesh. But now it was too late. I shot the rest of my bullets at the beast, but it only angered him more. He fixed his yellow eyes on me through the fences. Leaving my rifle, I ran for my life. I could hear the terrifying sound of the beast landing on the chain-link fence behind me. These were the creepy true zoo horror stories. If you liked these stories, please give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel.